All right. So today we are going to talk about um, running your business like a business, but from the financial standpoint, right? From managing your money, talking about commissions, chargebacks, paying yourself, how you should view your money, lead expenses, everything like that. So this isn't going to be super high level. This is going to be like, hey, this is the stuff that I did when I was brand new. And a huge because we don't talk about this a ton because again, we use these trainings as an opportunity to get better at selling life insurance the majority of the time, right? But at the same time, I am not the best, and but I do feel like I did a fairly good job of managing my money early on in this business. And I credit a huge reason to it is because I watched a video about a guy before I even got my first commission, and he was like, John Wetmore, it was his video. So if you know who he is, like, and I just watched a video that was like, hey, here's how you should manage your money when you start. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? And so some of you either have just started getting paid or haven't even started to get paid yet. So I just want you to make sure you're on the right foot. And now be clear, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax advisor. You know what I mean? I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but I've been doing this business for a minute, made a good chunk of money in it, and I just, I just want if you're open to advice on how to manage your business as a brand new agent, that's what this is. If you've been running a business for 27 years and you know how to do all that, by all means, do your thing. You know what I mean? I like don't take this as like, hey, here's what you have to do. I had never run a business before. I was a W-2 employee for the 5 years prior to this. And so 1099s and money coming in every day, money going out every day, like all that was new to me, right? And so I was like, dude, what do I do? And so I'm very grateful for, a training that I watched that kind of set me off in the right direction and obviously continue to work with Dom and stuff like that. But that's what this is going to be about that's kind of the higher level view. But Zach, I spoke with Dom earlier today, and he's going to be back on these on Thursday, by the way. But he and I was telling him that this is what we're going to be talking about today, and he mentioned to me that you shared something with him the other day about kind of what you're seeing with when in the name of daily pay and buying leads no matter what. So, dude, I would love it if to kind of start this off, if you could just share with these guys like what you shared with Dom, that kind of like, enlightenment moments you had about kind of the cash flow and managing your money in this business.
It was when I was talking to him about like basically like the snowball effect, and kind of thinking of like when you start insurance, the ball is really small, and when you start to get paid, once you start to figure out when to buy leads, um, the snowball starts to get bigger, and then it's your job to continue to make that snowball grow. So when you do get paid, reinvest it into your business. Seeing your daily income coming in. Obviously, if you want to start hiring, it starts to pick up, and then what you want to do with that is you want to keep the momentum going because once you stop working as much as you were working, or you start getting comfortable, that's when you start getting chargebacks. That's when you don't start seeing daily deposits because you figured, oh, I made this much last week, and over the past month and a half, 2 months, I've just been really diligent about my schedule, kind of like what we spoke about the other day. Just being intentional with my time and intentional with what we're doing here as a business. And that's really when you could start to see that snowball effect. Me and Dominique months ago were talking about how it doesn't really matter how much money you start making. Sometimes you'll be like, damn, I made 20,000 last month, but I got 3,000 in my account. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's just like it seems like you keep starting right back at square one. So with the snowball effect is once you start to see that income, and you're doing income producing activities, to just really that's when you really want to hit the gas because then you'll start to get daily deposits. You'll start to really see your cash flow increase. And then you won't hit that wall like you used to. You'll start getting chargebacks, but you won't even really see the chargebacks come because you have so many deposits coming in. And then and if you could do that, the earlier you start to do that and start to gauge it and understand, you're buying leads every week, you making sure you have enough leads that next thing you know, you'll be around like your 10th month, like I am, and you've been selling insurance for 10 months. Then you're going to get hit with back end money and you're going to start getting hit with yearly renewals. And the snowball's just from that point, it's just going to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger. And I was telling them, I finally started to like realize how you're supposed to work this business.
Bro, it's huge. And the snowball effect, excuse me, snowball is the best possible word for it. That's the perfect way to start talking about your money and how you should view your money in this business. Um, because this is an advance pay business. So it's not a traditional like here's your money and it's yours and nobody's taking it back and it's always going to be the same. Like it's a completely different deal, right? So like how you view your money is really important. And there's stages to this business. It's getting the snowball rolling, just getting things started. I just got to get paid, right? That's where you got to start. And then it's like, all right, I'm getting paid a little bit more consistently. And then you hit your 4, 5, 6 month mark, and you're like, all right, I'm pretty good at this thing now. I'm really getting paid. But then that's when you start getting hit with chargebacks because what happens is when you get good at closing, you also like you get good at closing, but you're not necessarily good at like bringing value and keeping clients and creating clients for life. So around like the 4 to 6 month mark is going to be the biggest period of cancellations and chargebacks. So like surviving that is a whole thing in itself, right? But dude, and my track is like the same as yours, dude. I feel like once you hit that 10 month mark, you're like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Like in terms of I can sell with some consistency. I'm a lot better at bringing value. So I have more clients staying on the books. And now you couple all that with like, I figured out a lead flow. You just like, and now I have back end money coming in. So it's really, truly a game of survival and how much can I just continue to keep that snowball rolling until you hit that 10 month to a year mark. That's just I'm telling everybody right now, like you're really not going to feel like your head is above water until you hit like that 10 month to a year mark and in terms of like the money in this business. And that's why there's that crazy stat of what 92% of people like don't make it out of their first year. It's because of everything I just mentioned, like the different stages of this. But if you can keep your head above water and hit and be in survival mode until your 10 to 12 month mark, that's when it's like, all right, like I'm really starting. And that doesn't mean you can't make stupid good money in the meantime. You know what I mean? It's just like you just kind of figure out the how money works in this thing. So to
Hey
that
Bryce,
point,
real quick before
yeah,
we go
go
on,
ahead.
two quick points. So you know that 92% that thing that you said that they don't make it 8%, right? Do you guys know how many if you're within that 8%, do you know how many of those actually make it and turn it into a career after that? If you make it past your first year? 80% of people. I learned that at the Ignite conference, they were
Hmm.
talking about that. So 92 don't make it the first year, 8%. And then going into that second year, 80% of the people actually turn it into a career field. And then also with what I was talking about with the snowball effect is you get good. And obviously you try to get draft dates, immediate draft dates. However, you're going to start filling up your pipeline as well. Because not everybody, especially if you sell final expense, is going to be able to actually have their stuff drafted within that first date. So, within the next couple, you're always going to be selling. You're going to have immediate draft dates, but you're also going to have a pipeline filled up of draft dates within the next 2 weeks. So as you're selling and getting immediate, you look and you have extra money coming because you've already sold a couple of policies that are going to draft tomorrow, the next day, and so forth. So your pipeline's filled up, you're selling, and then you're getting back in money. And then that's another part of the snowball that just really starts to.
Dude, it's crazy. It's just how this business works, man. Is you can make really good money early on. You can make solid money, right? Like you're not hurting. I was not hurting after a month in this business. Like you can make really good money. But it's like you get out of that. I'm only getting because your first 9 months you're only getting paid on advance. So you get out of that 9 month only getting paid on advance. Then you start getting some back end money coming in. Then after a year and plus you start getting renewals coming in. Plus, hopefully in the meantime, you've built a little bit of a team. You have some agents. So you have overrides. And then after 2 years, you have your renewals on those overrides. And like I'm just telling you guys, like after 2 years, like money just starts like coming out of your ears. Like it's all over the place. It's like every day it's like, oh, boom, back end, override. You know what I mean? Like renewal. Like it just so you just gotta just stay consistent and hit that point. Like I just wish that I could take everybody in that one and put you in the place of seeing what your account looks like in that 1.5 to 2 year range where you just wake up every day and you're like, I don't even know where that came from. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like, I don't have a team doing like 1 million a month either. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just like, but it's just like every day there's just something. And it just kind of like what Dom was talking about. It's like, it gives you that confidence of like, all right, let's go. Like, I just got to keep moving things forward and I'm going to continue to get paid. You know what I mean? Um, so, but you just you gotta stick it out in that meantime. And obviously we're going to talk about how to be as effective and as profitable as possible in the meantime, but there's just something to be said for staying patient in this game. Um, so first things first, like I said, this is an advance pay business. So how you have like you can't view your money as, oh, this is my money. You need to view every time you receive a commission within your first 9 months, you have to view your money as an interest-free loan to continue to grow your business. So this is a put a little bit of your own money in to get leads, get on the phone, start calling people, you get a little bit of money back, but it's super important that you view any money you get back as money to just continue to fuel your business. This is a money in, money out game. And then you just keep on playing that until you get better and that profitability starts to grow and grow and grow. But if you just view this as like, okay, I make money and then I'm going to keep it and it's all mine, for one, you're going to starve your business because you're not going to continue to get leads to continue the flow of that money coming in. But also, God forbid, if you have any chargebacks, anything like that, like you just never want to be in a position where you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Right. So you just have to continue to, it's money in, money out. So viewing your advance pay as an interest-free loan is how you have to view everything you get paid. I just received an interest-free loan from the carrier to put more money back into my business to continue to grow my business. Does that make sense? Like that's what your advance commission is. Um, so, and you know what? I'm going to actually do this. I laid this all out in the agent handbook. I'm just going to go through it real quick because the best way to kind of manage your money, the biggest piece of advice that I would give to everybody, if you haven't yet already, is to set up a separate bank account for this business, right? Um, it doesn't have to be a business bank account, but it should just be like, for me, when I first started and I heard this on a training, I just I was using a local credit union at the time. I just opened up a separate checking account with my credit union that I already had. Does that make sense? And so all of my carrier commissions got assigned to come to this separate checking account. And then all of my lead spend went out of that separate checking account. So I had my personal bank account and I had my business bank account. So all of my commissions from the carrier came to the business bank account, and all of my lead spend came out of this bank account because you don't want to intermix personal and business expenses. Like for one, just think of any business. Like if your local gas station, the guy that's running your local gas station, you don't think of it as this big old business, but he is 100% not funding that gas station with his personal bank account. Does that make sense? Like, so you got to view this as you are starting your own business. So you need to have a separate bank account for your business. For one, it makes it a lot easier to manage your expenses, and your income. So for tax season, it's going to be way easier to just manage it all when you have a separate account. It's going to not like, you don't want to be like, oh, I got this money for leads, and then you pay rent and out of the same account, like, oh, now I don't have any money for leads. Like it's just terrible to intermingle those two things. So like I'm super grateful from day one. I've always kept it separate. So essentially I've used my own money one time. I transferred it over to my business account. I bought leads with that. I had commissions come back to that business bank account, and then I just continued to buy leads with that. So, and then what I would do, and then the next step from there is, of course, you got to pay yourself, right? You got to pay your bills. Early on in this business, pay yourself just exactly what you need to live your life. Like your minimum, figure out what your expenses are. And what I did is every 2 weeks, just like if I was an employee, I would transfer over to my personal account from my business account just the minimum that I needed to pay my bills. So I calculated what are my groceries, what's my rent, whatever my minimum expenses are. Every 2 weeks, I just paid myself just enough to cover that. So again, one of the worst things you can do is as you start making money in this business, increasing your lifestyle, because there's going to be a time where you're going to regret that if you've bought all this cool new stuff and then you're like, oh shoot, but now my business is starved. So like what I want you all to like, I just want you all to be in a place where as fast as possible, you just have this super healthy looking business bank account. And then once you figured out how to sell consistently, you're creating consistent income, you're covering your minimum bills and you're still having extra and extra and extra left over each month. That's when you can kind of start to like top yourself off a little bit more, right? Like pay yourself more than your minimum expenses and kind of reward yourself, if you will. But again, like I'm one of the best things I did as a new agent was just barely paid myself just what I needed to cover the minimum expenses for the first, like, I don't know, 6, 8 months of this business. And then as I was like, all right, my business bank account is stupid. Like, all right, now I can kind of do some cool stuff. Like it was after about a year, I went to Hawaii with my wife and that's where I proposed. And like, but I didn't do that right away, right? I just really let that business bank account build up. And then I kind of started to transfer a little bit extra on top of that. So set up a separate account, pay yourself what you need to just to live your life. Those are the two kind of best things you can do to start your business. Also, I highly recommend some sort of like accounting system. Like me personally, I use QuickBooks, and you just link your business bank account to that QuickBooks. I am not like I graduated with a business degree, but I barely passed accounting. Like, trust me, I'm not good at accounting. I don't know how to categorize. I tried to do it a little bit on my own in the beginning. But categorizing your own expenses, like, I don't know, I don't trust myself enough to get it right. So I hired just like an accountant just to like manage my QuickBooks. Again, this is kind of like level 2 stuff, but I'm just telling you now something to kind of start to work towards. Because taxes are going to be different in this, right? And you just want to make sure that you get it right. You know what I mean? When it comes to how your expenses are categorized and everything like that. So if I know my goal is for like all of you as fast as possible to get to the point. Like I can't wait for the day that Jenny, you go, hey, what's up with that accountant? I need some help. Like I want somebody to manage my books, right? Like that's I want to help you get there as fast as possible. But so this is kind of like in the future stuff, but still, at least what made it easier for my accountant to categorize all my expenses is that I just always at least from day one, I had my separate bank account linked to my QuickBooks. So all she had to do was go in there and clean it up. I didn't even try to really categorize it or anything. She just go, okay, cool. All this stuff is in there. Let me just categorize it all the right way. Does that make sense? So at the very like, what can you do right away? Set up a separate bank account, get a QuickBooks, and just link that account to that QuickBooks and only run your business in terms of income and expenses out of that one account. Does that make sense? It wasn't until probably my second, maybe my third year that I set up like an actual business account with Chase. Like it was just a separate checking account. And then eventually I opened up an LLC. And then that's when I kind of went and opened up like a real business bank account. But like looking back on it now, I probably never even need to do that. It doesn't really help me in any way. It just sounds cool to have like a Chase preferred, whatever, you know what I mean? But it doesn't actually do anything. So I get that all the time. Like, do I need an actual business account? No, you just need a separate checking account. Does that make sense? So that's what I would do for that. But yeah, keep track of all that. It's going to make tax season a lot easier. And then kind of the last step, and again, this is kind of, a little bit more advanced. Like this is a great problem to have or a good place to be, but I'm still just going to share it with you really just as a goal. Like when I heard this stuff as a new agent, I didn't tune it out like, oh, that's not me yet. I listened to it and I was like, that's what I want. That's the place I want to get to. Like that's a goal of mine, aside from just like a specific number goal or financial. Like my goal was to get to the point where I had opened up an LLC, and I put myself on payroll. So now I don't transfer money from my personal, like from one account to the other. Like my LLC W-2s myself every 2 weeks. Does that make sense? And so I never have to worry about paying taxes because I basically pay taxes quarterly. Like it auto deducts taking out taxes. I don't have to worry about transferring money over. It just shows up in my account every 2 months. Um, so putting your set, like, again, just think about it. What the CEO of a company, does he just like skim money off the top from the business account? No, he sets a salary for himself and he puts himself on payroll, right? So you view yourself as a business, you do the exact same thing. Now, you don't overthink it. Don't go open up an LLC tomorrow. Like you have to have a decent chunk of income to even think about filing it under an LLC, or it doesn't really matter. But once you do, like again, it's only June. Like hopefully by the end of the year, all of you are like, it's December and you're like, okay, I got to go get an LLC. It's almost time. Like the year's almost over. You know what I mean? And so let's worry about that in December. But for now, separate account, eventually open up an LLC, and then put yourself on payroll, pay yourself. So that you as your business, as a business owner, on salary for your business. So that's how you manage your money the right way in this business. Again, if some of you run a business, you might be like, yeah, dude, duh. But I never did. And so when I heard a training like this, I was like, oh, cool. That's how you do it. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of that?
I have a question, Bryce.
Of course.
Since we started, we didn't know this, of course, and we put our personal account in with the carriers and things like that.
Mhm.
How difficult is it to transfer that out once we go and set up this separate account with America and all the other branches plus Family First?
Yeah, it's not like snap of a finger. It's going to be a little bit of administrative stuff, but it's totally worth it. So, I think it's like whatever platform, I think you can update it in like Sure LC, and then whatever platform you use where you added in your payment info, I'd go up, open up that separate account and just let them know and just that to change it to the new account. Um, and it might be a little bit of a process. You might still get some commissions from the carriers into your personal account. And you just know, like when I switch bank accounts, anytime I would get a deposit from a carrier into the other account, I was like, all right, let me just call that carrier, make sure they have my updated account info. So you're going to let them know all in one, but you might need to still, monitor it as you go. But again, Darlene, in the long run, completely worth it. I think sometimes people don't do this because they're like, I don't, too much work right now. It's like, cool, but like, believe in yourself enough that you want to get out in front of this becoming a bigger, like, you're going to have to deal with this down the road. Like, I always believe I'm going to make enough money where this is going to be a problem later. So let me just fix it now. You know what I mean? So it's
Thanks.
definitely worth it.
Okay, thanks.
I have something. So we have an accountant already for like our taxes and stuff. And I sat down with her and I talked to her about everything. And she is doing QuickBooks for us for a very minimal amount every single month. And I would highly suggest talking to an accountant because the advice that she gave me and what it takes and like all the legal that it takes to become an LLC, like my accountant filled me on all of that. So I would definitely say get an accountant because she's gonna my lady's gonna do my QuickBooks for $30 a month. So and I feel like that's a very reasonable price, so I
Totally.
don't have to deal with that headache. So
Yep. 100%. And it's one of those things is like, I don't think we talk about it a ton when you're like brand new because it's this balance. Like, I don't want you spending all this time thinking about like running this business stuff when we haven't even sold anything yet. Like, let's make this a problem. But at the same time, believe in yourself enough that this would become eventually a problem if you didn't get out in front of it now. So I don't know what the right answer to that is in terms of find the balance of like focus on selling the insurance, focus on the training and talking with clients, but take a second, as efficiently as possible and get your business set up the right way. So when you do start making the money, it's super clean. I've talked to a lot of guys that like just have massive businesses with an FFL, and a lot of them will tell you like one of the biggest things that I wish I would go back and have changed is when I really started making money is that my finances were a complete mess because I had personal accounts, no QuickBooks, no accountant, all this type of stuff. And so I was just like, it's worth it for me to it took me one morning to do, like from 8 to noon. I think I went to the bank, opened up an account, let all the carriers know, downloaded QuickBooks, linked it to my account. Like that takes 3 hours, maybe. You know what I mean? So like start there. And then once you really start making money, okay, cool. Now I need to get an accountant to like help me manage these QuickBooks.
A QuickBooks, because I use it for my personal training company. It's really simple. It don't even take rocket science. Like once you sign up and you put your bank account on there, and if you go on your QuickBooks, it'll have all your charges. So once you start to like move your charges to business, it will actually create that for you. It will say, "Well, you like to have this like created?" So every time that you purchase leads to the agency RM or ILC, will automatically go to a business expense that they created for you.
Yeah, totally.
But it is definitely a lifesaver.
Dude. Yeah, when it's time for tax season, you're like, how much did you make? What were your expenses? You don't want to be like thumbing through bank statements.
You
You know
just
what I mean?
allow him to access to your QuickBooks and they can go in there and see everything right there and do it
my
yourself.
tax people are like, hey, I'm like, here's my QuickBooks login. And they're like, cool. And then I just
wait for the
they
bill.
say sign here. And those are my taxes. Like that's literally it. You know what I mean? And like one of the biggest thing about 1099 is like, oh shoot, taxes. I'm like, I know, but dude, I receive my 1099s. I give them to my tax people. They ask me a bunch of questions. I go, here's my QuickBooks. And then they stop asking me questions. And then they send me my tax stuff back. And then they say, sign here. And I look through it. I'm like, yep, looks good. Sign here. And then I get a check in the mail for my refund and we're all good. You know what I mean? Like it's so when you have this stuff squared away, it just makes it so much easier. Zach or Jason's off. Zach, so that's managing your money. But before I move on, I want to talk about chargebacks in a little bit. But anything else on, I talked about viewing your money as like an advance pay. You've owned a business before. Like, I don't know, anything that you learned or anything that you want to share with these guys about like how you view your money versus I guess how you would view your money when you're just a typical employee?
I would say I kind of view it as monopoly money, to be honest with you. I don't really believe that it's my money, and I'm playing a game within the insurance game to see uh how much I can, start like watermarks. You got to start with watermarks. Watermarks, me and Dominique was talking about this as well too. So start off in insurance, you want to be like, okay, I want to get my business account up to 5,000, and that's with leads purchase and with everything that you need in order to make more money. So obviously, once you hit that $5,000 watermark, you want to, okay, now I need to try to up that watermark to 10,000, and so obviously you'll have around 7, 8, but you'll buy leads, so it will creep back down towards 5. That's your watermark. You start selling more. Next thing you know, your watermark is 10. So I've always played a game with myself of within the next 90 days, 30 to 90 days is kind of how I play the game, of increasing my watermark. And then it gives you something to push for and push towards. With chargebacks, honestly, I've only personally paid one chargeback back, and that was because I don't really write a lot of AMAM, and I was trying to push somebody over there to, in order to have it just pay off. But if you're just writing business, you'll never really pay a chargeback back. Like with the monopoly money, you'll just sell another policy because you've acquired the skill set that it won't even really bother you. So I wouldn't, a lot of people stress with the chargeback business, but if you're working and you're continually writing business, it's nothing you're even gonna have to worry about. So I would just play the monopoly game and work on that watermark, play a game within yourself, a 30-day goal, 90-day goals, and keep on trying to hit new watermarks.
100%. Same. I like that. Do the same thing. It's like, all right, this is where I'm at. This is my goal to get to within 90 days to get my account to this point. And then it's like, never let it go below this again. And if it does, like I'm in emergency mode to get it back up, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, some of this stuff is in the handbook, right? I talked about setting up your business, set up a bank, set up QuickBooks, how important it is. Um, Setting up a business bank account, right? So, I kind of highlighted what we talked about here in the handbook. What is this? Page 33 and 34. And then I just kind of put chargebacks in here as well. So I'm just going to kind of read through this and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. But so a chargeback, if you don't know, if you're brand new, I didn't know what the heck a chargeback was when I started this. So if you're like just starting in the industry, you're like, what does that even mean? Chargebacks occur when a policy either lapses or is canceled, right? So either the client doesn't, keep up the payments or they cancel the policy, whatever the case is. So that results in a loss of the commission that you're paid. So again, we are paid based off of what the client would pay into the policy over the course of the first 9 months. If the client does not fulfill the 9 months, then obviously you were paid for something that was never even achieved. So you owe that money back to the insurance company. Like Zach said, they're not just going to go and immediately pull it out of your bank account. It's just going to be like a negative in your commission. So as long as you continue to sell insurance, you'll outright that chargeback, right? You'll bring it back to zero. So we receive 75% of our commission up front. Remaining 25% is paid in months 10, 11, and 12, assuming the policy is still active. So how to reduce chargebacks? Okay. Well, for one, make sure that that's something they can afford long term. Now, you're never going to completely eliminate chargebacks, just part of the game, but obviously there's ways that we can reduce it, and we can kind of talk about it here for these next couple minutes. So ensure clients can afford the premium long term. Set them up on auto pay like this. We don't even sell anything based off checks. Like you'll never have anybody write a check, but still, when you use EFT, just auto pay, it makes it a lot more likely that they maintain the payments. Work with serious buyers who value life insurance. Don't, again, sometimes you get good at closing, and getting good at closing doesn't mean you're actually serving the family and creating a long-term client. You know what I mean? Just getting them to fill out an application doesn't mean that they bought the plan. So work with serious buyers who value and appreciate it. When you wrapping up, we're going to go over how to wrap up an appointment to really solidify everything on the next training. But that's super important. When I started getting good at really closing up the appointment the right way, giving them the information, asking good questions to like really solidify what we just did, my chargebacks reduced by a ton. So reinforce it, follow up with the client, target stable income clients, like people that actually are receiving consistent money. Like we get a lot of chargebacks early on, and sometimes you just don't know. But if a client's like, oh yeah, I mean, I don't have a job or I'm not on Social Security, but like, I'll figure it out. I get money here and there. Like you don't even want to mess with that, right? So people that receive some sort of consistent income, and then post-dating policies as well is one of the biggest causes of chargebacks of, setting a policy to get paid 37 days from now. Like, yeah, every once in a while you're going to need to adjust the draft date. But the more that you have to do that, the more your chargebacks pile up. So the more that you can just have immediate, like if they're picking plans that they can afford today, right? That's the biggest thing about that. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I can afford that $87. 3 weeks from now, we'll see. Who cares? It's 3 weeks from now. I got time. Like that's when we get the most chargebacks. When it's like, yep, I got that in my account now. If it drafts tomorrow, no problem. That's how you avoid chargebacks for the most part. So they're obviously chargebacks are your responsibility. The best way to handle chargebacks is just stay consistent, continuing to write new business. Your new sales offset your chargeback debt. But if chargebacks are left unpaid for too long, that's when they roll up to whoever brought you into this business, and that's when it becomes a problem. So again, same with me, Zach. I've only paid a carrier one time. Everything else I've always outwritten it, but there was one time I'm like, dude, I never write this carrier. I helped this guy out with this plan. That's all he qualified for. Now I kind of regret it, but it is what it is. Let me just pay this chargeback off and just be done with it. You know what I mean? But other than that, I've always just like, you get a chargeback and like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to keep writing business with that carrier in it. helps write it off. So that's another reason. I know I said this the other day, but keeping your business consolidated with as few carriers as possible also helps your profitability and reducing chargebacks. So if you're spreading your business out between a bunch of carriers, you're kind of in scramble mode, writing off debt. Whereas if it's really consolidated, you're like, I write majority of my business with one carrier anyways. If one cancels, it's really not that big a deal because that's where you're putting most people and they're going to offset them. So I see people really get in trouble when they really like spread their business out a ton. And if you're a brand new agent and you're like, I saw you guys are contracted with 27 different companies, why am I only contracted with 6? Like, it's to help you. You know what I mean? Like, it's to save you from yourself a little bit of like writing business with like, oh, they qualify for this one, they qualify for this one, blah, blah, blah. And then you have 17 clients with 17 carriers. If one falls off and you're like, oh, I'm probably never writing that carrier again. You know what I mean? And it's just a dangerous game. So keep your business consolidated. It helps your profitability. It helps you staying out of debt. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for managing debt. Any questions about that? Anything related to chargebacks, commissions, anything at all?
Yes, I have a question. Post-dating policies. Zach mentioned that earlier, that he has a few that falls in. What's the difference between what he was discussing and what's in the handout there?
I'll answer that. So what he's talking about is, post dating something out 3 to 4 weeks. I tell clients within the week. You know what I mean? At the most a week and a half. So if you're post dating it, today's the 24th of June, and you post dating it for the 23rd of July, you can probably 9 out of 10 times it's not going to draft.
Yep.
Okay, but if it's the 23rd, like today, and a lot of seniors get paid on the 1st or the 3rd, that's not bad.
No,
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah. So that's what I mean, is just not making it a habit. Like, one of the biggest problems with post dates is when you use it as a part of your close, right? If they're like, I don't know. And you're like, hey, here, Darlene, here's the thing. We can set this out 4 weeks. We just need to see if it even gets approved. Like, nobody ever told you to do that. Don't do that, right? Like, the way that we close is, all right, Darlene, so the way that this works is if it's approved, it's going to draft within about 24 to 48 hours. That's going to put your policy in effect. And since today's the 24th, the recurring payments are going to be on the 24th of each month. Does that work? That's how you talk about payment. And then if the client brings up, well, I get paid on the 1st, I'd like this to go out on the 1st of each month, and that they're on Social Security income, that's when I'll go, yep, no problem. So what we'll do is we'll have it start and recur on the 1st of each month. It'll actually align with your Social Security.
Okay, and so the first payment will still come out on the 1st, and then reoccurring the 1st after that.
Correct.
And it's okay to close out the deal today, but knowing that the first payment will come out on the 1st is fine.
Correct. As part of the application, you'll set the initial and recurring draft date, even though you'll still finish it up today, but it won't draft until the 1st.
So is it advisable to call them back in the next 8 days to say, hi, Bryce, just a reminder that your first payment will come out tomorrow? Or do you just leave it alone and let it ride out?
Yeah, I personally don't. Like, for my whole thing with follow-up is like, I'm so stupid thorough when we're on the phone that I don't need to do a ton of follow-up. But yeah, if it doesn't hurt to just like to check in, I usually do my check. I set an appointment reminder 2 weeks from the day that I close one. And all I do is I just text, hey, did you get your policy in the mail? That's my like follow-up. You know what I mean? But I just assume that it's stupid clear that we talked about your policies drafting on the 1st. I then send a text and an email saying draft date, amount, recurring draft date, all that. So like we talked about it, and they get a text and email about it. And so, it should be, we're on the same page. So again, the biggest thing is you just don't want to make it a part of your close. Like, you don't want to rely on the draft date as a way to close out the deal. Does that make sense? I assume that we're going to draft today unless they tell me they need it for another date. And if so, and just like Zach said, if they need it for a different date, it's only because they're on some sort of Social Security income So we align it with that. It's not like, I don't have any money now. And you're like, cool, let's set it out 30 days from now. Let's see if you have money then. You know what I mean? That's where you get yourself into some trouble. So if the only time you set a draft date is if you know that's the day that they get paid, and so that's the day we're going to set the draft. That actually helps. I'm actually I like setting, if somebody's on Social Security income or something like that, I like setting up the recurring draft date on the day that they get paid, you know, to like, I know the money's always going to be there. You know what I mean? And so it's not a bad idea to do that, but you don't need to set it out any further, like Zach said, than like a week and a half. Any other questions about anything? I mean, anything at all, if you guys have any questions, but you know, specifically money related, commissions, chargebacks, debt, anything like that.
I actually have a question. So payments are daily or?
From carriers to you as
Yeah.
the agent?
Yes.
Yeah. 98% of them pay daily. There's a few that pay weekly. But yeah, like the main carriers that we use, Mutual of Omaha, Americo, they'll pay daily.
Okay. And so you touched on this earlier, that a new agent like me should probably have like 6 or less carriers.
Yeah, I mean, we
Relationships.
only start everybody that gets contracted with, I think, 6, maybe, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all you need. Like I write so much with like probably more than 70% with one carrier. And then my other, it's kind of split between like 2 to 3 others. So I really write like 4 carriers. And
Okay.
then when you start selling consistently, like you'll have these one-off, like this carrier gives immediate for HIV, this one does for Hep C, you know, just like these random little health stuff that you'll just go with these other carriers. But the main stuff that most people have, you'll be able to fit in a bucket of like 3 to 4 carriers.
I have one more question for you. Sorry.
No?
You said you were very thorough. And so did you start off with a checklist when you were like talking to someone in addition to the script? Did you have like a checklist to make sure have this, and that
Like
covered?
after the
or-
sale to wrap up the sale.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, we're gonna go over this on Thursday, but we'll do a little
Okay.
preview.
Okay.
Because yes, I do have a checklist of exactly what to say when you wrap up a sale.
Okay.
And it's on page 28 of the agent handbook.
Okay. Thanks.
Where'd I go?
And while Bryce is looking for that, don't be scared to challenge people on their draft day too, because a lot of people will just try to change their draft date because they just don't want to see the money come out of their account right then and there. They actually do have the money.
So going back, while he's looking for that too, going back to his answer to Kimberly about the daily payments, is that after the first payment has been taken? So if today's the 25th and we close someone and the draft doesn't start until the first of the month, so really she should not expect a payment within the first 24 hours, but
She was
after the
talking about
first.
her getting paid as the agent.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
talking about as well.
So are you asking you're going to get paid after the client pays for the policy? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So commissions are so we get paid on issue, right? Issue means the
Okay.
policy is issued, then you get paid.
Okay. That's fantastic. I love it. Good. Insurance agents paid upon
I'm telling you guys
issue.
right now, I've had people
Right.
ask me about, I'm just going to get out in front of this because if you're familiar with the industry at all, you may know that in some situations it's possible to get paid on advance or paid on approval. That's dangerous, scary, bad. Like I don't want to, like, think about this. You could be potentially getting paid for something that the client is never going to actually pay for. So what that means is if I set the draft for the first, but it's approved today, that means I can get paid today. Now, the business side of your mind, the cash flow part of your mind is like, oh, that's a good way to create cash flow. like, I believe in myself enough that I don't need that money today, that I want to make sure that it's not going to charge back as much as possible. Because if the client doesn't pay for that on the first, then that's an automatic chargeback. So getting paid on approval is really dangerous.
Yeah.
I would not, if I was a solo agent and I just like had been doing this for 17 years and I like am so crazy, like, yeah, okay, maybe. But if you had a goal to build a business, like I know how much debt and chargebacks I racked up as a new agent because I was still figuring things out. And imagine you running a business and you bring in a new agent and then they're paid every time they get a policy approved and then they disappear off the face of the earth. That all rolls up to you. You know what I mean? So when it like there's just from the overall scale of having a healthy, profitable business, that's why it paid on issue is super important. That's kind of like, you know, most of you're kind of like, what the hell is he talking about? But just so you know, like, because you might see something out. Like I've had agents ask me, can I get paid on in advance? And I'm telling you, I'm not telling you no to like be a dick. I'm telling you no because I don't want you swimming in debt. Like get paid when the client pays for the policy. That does that not make sense? You know what I mean? To me, that makes all the sense in the world. Like I don't want to get paid if a client's never going to pay for a policy. So that's what paid on issue is.
With the draft dates, like if you set it for the day of, do we typically tell our clients like it's going to take like 2 or 3 business days to actually draft? Because I had that with one lady because she
well,
was kept
especially
asking me and asking
Jenny,
me,
because
like, it
it's your
hasn't come out yet,
first
it hasn't come out
one.
yet.
It's your first one
No.
because they have to go through. You'll learn which carriers, right? Americo, fast. Aetna, Corbridge, some of the other carriers. Yeah, there's a bit of like a processing delay between submitting the application and the draft coming out. But for every carrier that you sell for the first time, and then especially the first time in the state, you have to be appointed by the state through that carrier. So it goes through an appointment approval process before they even issue the policy and then let alone draft the policy. So if it's your
Okay,
first
so then,
policy in each state, yes, tell the client it's going to take a couple days before you see the draft.
okay, perfect.
And then if it's Americo, now that I know Americo moves things really fast and I've sold in that state before, then I'll tell them, hey, you'll probably see this come out of your account tomorrow, maybe the day after, depending on like the time of the day. If it's later in the day, maybe not. If it's in the morning, pretty good chance they're going to get to it and it's going to be drafted tomorrow. But I say like 24 to 72 hours. Unless I know it's Americo because I know they move fast. So like it's safe for you guys as agents to just say you'll probably see, because when you don't really know which carriers move fast, which one have processing delays, like just tell every client you'll see the first draft come out within these next 24 to 72 hours. And then since today is the 24th, the recurring payments will just be on the 24th of each month. I forget who asked, but yes, this is like my checklist for wrapping up the sale, which again, we're gonna talk about more on Thursday.
Okay. Thanks,
page 28
Bryce.
of the handbook.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? That was good.
Good
stuff.
Okay.
Is it sketchy to use a credit card on Aetna?
Never use a credit card with
No,
any
sorry,
carrier.
not Aetna, Corbridge.
Yeah, if that's all they have, yes. So Transamerica and Corbridge are the two carriers that take debit card, not credit card.
Okay.
Bryce,
Okay,
I
yeah,
just
'cause I
wanted
had
to. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That answered my question.
Are you sure? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I just wanted to recap what you said. Open a checking account, link QuickBooks to that checking account, and then let the carrier know of the bank
Well,
account.
for you,
number.
Kimberly, you haven't started contracting yet, so you'll be good. Just for Darlene, she's already active and been selling.
Okay.
And so she's got to kind of like go backtrack and change some things. But for you, as if you have a brand new account before you get contracted, you'll be good.
Okay.
You don't need to let the carriers know. It'll just be a part of your contracting process to let them know, hey, here's the routing and the account number that I want my commissions deposited into.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, good stuff. Today's Tuesday, right? So no training Wednesday. There is a product training. I don't know what carrier it's going to be. But that's really the only training on Wednesday. And then we'll be back on here on Thursday. Be ripping the phones on live Zoom dials in the meantime. Let me know if you guys need anything. But other than that, great seeing you. Have a good rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.